My name is Kamini, and I'm representing Video Volunteers, which is an NGO based in Goa. We've been sort of alive for about 7 or 8 years, but about three and a half years ago, we started a program called India Unheard. And this is a community news show that we basically publish one video a day online on the India Unheard website. It's called India Unheard because Video Volunteers was founded on the philosophy that media and especially news should belong to the people who own it and not just corporations. So they train people from marginalized communities all over the country in how to be video activists and journalists. And we publish this news, but we also send it back to them so they can use it for grassroots activism. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about Video Volunteers and then the project that we were doing together. And I'll introduce two of our community correspondents who we've trained in the last 3 years, and then they'll talk a little bit about themselves. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. So we right now have more than 150 correspondents all over India, and that means about 23 states at present. And we have rural networks in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh of about 50 each, or that's what we're attempting to get to in the next couple of months. And essentially, they are marginalized people, so they might be Dalits. More than 50% are women. They're tribals, they're sexual minorities, and they're religious minorities. So how it happens is that we have these 2-week training camps in one location in the country, and then we invite people who we've connected through grassroots organizations, and we train them for 2 weeks in video and audio and journalism and storytelling, and then they go back to where they come from, and then they send us news reports, which we then pay them for. The loop is somehow fulfilled when these people use their videos to create change at a local level. For instance, if there's a school and there's only one teacher for 60 students, if, say, the correspondent is in Jharkhand and takes this video back to the BDO or the local authorities and screens it back to them, and the BDO then employs another teacher, that's what we call impact. So I'm just going to show you a video to better describe it visually. That's the impact one, yeah? The one I just gave you. I don't know whether that was very clear, but I hope you've got an idea. So basically CIS and Video Volunteers were involved in a project together to document the life and potential death of cyber cafes in India. And we've come up, we actually were meant to have 7, but we only have 6 to screen to you today. But what is interesting is that both organizations, both Video Volunteers and CIS, sort of focus on the disadvantaged and the ones without access, and how technology can impact these segments of society. So I'd just like to introduce Mary, Benny, and Christy. Christy is from Karnataka itself. He's just going to tell you a bit about himself and what he does for us.
I'm from Nagaland. I've been working with video volunteers for the past 2 years. I normally make videos on the social issues in Nagaland, which are not covered by the mainstream media. Some of the videos that I worked on are women discrimination in the church, water scarcity, because pipelines are not available in Kohima, especially in the state capital. And I made a video on corruption in the employment, because government jobs are on sale in Nagaland. People who are related to ministers and parliamentary secretaries are given better opportunity than the common people like us. And the next video I made was on, in the year 2010, the Chief Minister declared Year of Entrepreneur and he promised some funds to be released to 1,000 entrepreneurs, but the promise was never kept. So I made a video on that, and I think the last video I made was on this. I'm working on the video which is on the election violence in Nagaland. So I will continue to strive working with video volunteers, because this is a platform where the issues of my community is being projected correctly. Thank you.
Do we have any questions so far? Is anything not clear at all, or just before we screen the actual videos? No? Let's switch the lights off. We can start with this.
People who don't installing the broadband, and mobile are only having the 3G right now. But it is not sufficient to gather information from that. So people are coming, still coming, but less amount is coming to serve.
1 year ago, I was also a frequent visitor in the cyber cafe. I don't visit cyber cafe anymore because I have my own 3G installed in my mobile phone. For all this reason, you find that many customers are limited.
कौन सा वर्ग आपके पास ज्यादा इंटरनेट यूज करने आता है? हमारे पास ज्यादातर वर्ग जंगली आ गए ना, तो बच्चे और लड़के लड़कियां सभी आ गए। महिलाएं भी आपके पास यहाँ पे? महिलाएं यहाँ पर नहीं है, महिलाएं कम आती है, इतनी इंफॉर्मेशन कम है तो कम आती है, तो आपका कल्चर भी अलाउ करता है। आप इंटरनेट यूज करते हैं? कहाँ पे यूज करते हैं?
मैं मोबाइल पे करता हूँ।
अच्छा, तो इंटरनेट यूज करने के बाद आपके जीवन में आपने क्या बदलाव आप महसूस करते हैं?
इंटरनेट करने के बाद जो मैंने देखा कि मेरे को पता चल गया कि जैसे के बारे में पढ़ना हो तो आजकल ये सही पता चलता है। अगर कोई चीज़ पता करना हो जैसे मोबाइल सब लोग पूरा कर रहे हैं तो अच्छी नहीं पता चलता है।
तो क्या अब आप साइबर कैफे जाते हैं? वो लोगों के पास तो हमारे काम में तो बात पड़ेगा, क्योंकि मैक्सिमम जो उनके पास मोबाइल में शुरू कर लेंगे तो हमारे को काम में भी बंद हो जाएगा।
ಸೈಬರ್ ಕೆಫೆಗೆ ವಾರದಲ್ಲಿ 3 ಸತಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೇನೆ. ಯಾತಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಸೈಬರ್ ಕೆಫೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತದ್ದಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರ ಜೊತೆ ಚಾಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತದ್ದಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಮಾಹಿತಿಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಸಂಗ್ರಹಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಂತಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಕೆಲವೊಮ್ಮೆ ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕ ಉದ್ದೇಶಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಚಲನಚಿತ್ರಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಚಿತ್ರಗೀತೆಗಳಾಗಿರೋದು ನೋಡೋದಕ್ಕಂತ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು. ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ನಾವು ಸಮುದಾಯ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬಂದು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಲೈಫಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಕಲ್ತಿದ್ದು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಕೂಲಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಅನ್ನೋದೊಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಸಹ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಲಭವಾಗಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ತರಹದ ಕಾರ್ಯಗಳನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಈಗ ಕೆಲವರಿಗೆ ಭಾಷೆಗಳು ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಆ ತರ ಭಾಷೆಗಳು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಎಂದಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಷೆ ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಭಾಷೆ ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಹಿಸಬಹುದು.
ನೀವು ಸೈಬರ್ ಕೆಫೆಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಏನೇನು ಪ್ರೂಫ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಐಡಿ ಪ್ರೂಫ್
ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಸಿಬ್ಬಂದಿಗಳಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಐಡಿ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ನಾವು ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಸೆಕ್ಸ್ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತ ಯಾವ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಐಡೆಂಟಿ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುತ್ತೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಮಾಜದವರಿಗೆ.
Well, I come to cyber cafes to have some news, to go ahead and check what's happening with the world, around the world. At the same time, I also want to know what's going on with the youth of Nagaland, or I should say, in general.
While information technology is more advanced in other parts of the country, Nagaland has a long way to go. Though internet can be accessed through cell phones, we Nagas still prefer to visit cyber cafes.
I don't have internet facilities in my phone, so I come here to browse and to connect with my friends, chat with my friends.
So which sites do you use mostly?
Facebook.
Well, the one thing that the cyber cafe pulls me towards them is that the connectivity, the line that we have over the phone, the access, the internet access that we can, is very, very slow in Nagaland.
how has visiting cyber cafes impacted you?
There are many of my friends whom I've lost contact with them, so I'm getting connected through Facebook as well. Without internet, that would be impossible because it's helping my studies.
I think it has really impacted my life in ways of education, in ways of how I live and how I go ahead with my daily chores.
ગુજરાત રાજ્યમાં મુખ્યમંત્રી દ્વારા E-ગ્રામ યોજના દ્વારા ઇન્ટરનેટ અને કમ્પ્યુટર દરેક ગામડાના ગ્રામ પંચાયતમાં આપવામાં આવેલ છે અને આ યોજનાનો મુખ્ય ઉદ્દેશ્ય છે કે ગામડાના ખેડૂતો, વેપારીઓ, વિદ્યાર્થીઓ દરેક લોકોને દરેક પ્રકારની માહિતી પૂરી પાડવામાં આવે. આ E-ગ્રામ યોજના વિશે તમને કઈ જાણકારી છે?
છે તો ખબર છે, તો ખબર જ પડ્યું છે.
E-ગ્રામ યોજના વિશે કઈ ખબર નથી. આમાં કોઈ આવડતું નથી. લાયા તે જ નામની પીડ્યું.
E-ગ્રામ વિશે તો આ કોમ્પ્યુટર આવ્યો એ કદાચ બાકી કઈ માહિતી તો આપણને જાણતા નથી.
હાલમાં શું પોઝિશનમાં છે?
ત્યારે કોમ્પ્યુટર બંધ છે, બરોબર. હજી 2 વખત રિપેર કરી છે પણ કઈ ચાલુ થયું નથી.
ગામમાં ઇન્ટરનેટનો અમારે સહાયતા કરવી પડે છે અને E-ગ્રામ યોજના હોય તો અહીંયા સફળતાપૂર્વક અમે અહીંયા ફોર્મ ને એવું ભરી.
મને કઈ જાણ જ નથી.
ગ્રામ પંચાયતમાં કોઈ વાત કરેલી ખરી કઈ?
ના, કઈ કરેલ નથી.
તો તમે 7/8 ને એવું ક્યાં કઢાવો છો?
સાઈલા જાતે મમ્મી જાતે.
એ કઢાવવામાં તમને અહીંયા સરળતા રહે કે પછી
ઉપર થઈ જાય ત્યાં લાઈનમાં ઉભું રહેવું પડે. ત્યારે 7, 12, 8 નીકળે. મમ્મી વારો નથી આવતો. બબી દાડે વારો આવે.
ખરેખર આવી યોજના હોવી જ જોઈએ પણ જે પાયાની વાત છે ને લોક જાગૃતિ, લોકોને ખબર જ નથી કે આ માહિતી પંચાયતમાંથી મળે છે તો પછી કોમ્પ્યુટર લાવીને મૂકી દેવાનો કોઈ મતલબ નથી.
मुझे इंटरनेट की ज़रूरत होती है तो मैं जबलपुर जाती हूँ जो कि खंडिया से 40 किलोमीटर दूर है और ये 2 महीने 1 महीने के बाद मैं जा पाती हूँ और उन चीज़ों के लिए इस्तेमाल करती हूँ जैसे दुनिया भर की जानकारी, जॉब अलर्ट आते रहते हैं उनके लिए, नौकरी पानी है मुझे उनके लिए मैं इन चीज़ों का इस्तेमाल करती हूँ. एक दिन पूरे निकाल कर जबलपुर जाना पड़ता है और वहाँ पर इंटरनेट यूज करने को मिलता है तो 1 घंटे के 15 रुपये देने पड़ते हैं.
जबलपुर जिले के विकासखंड कुंडम के अंतर्गत 199 गांव और 68 पंचायत आते हैं और यहाँ पर साइबर कैफे की सुविधा नहीं है. अगर साइबर कैफे की सुविधा विकासखंड कुंडम में हो जाए तो आने जाने में सुविधा होगी और समय की बचत और खर्चा कम लगेगा.
So these were just examples of how community media can also be used as a way of doing research on the ground because you have access to voices which otherwise you would not normally have, or you'd have to send, stringers or people from your community to go and cover these issues. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions?
There's one question in the corner you can't see.
Yes.
So I was asking Nishant also, how are these topics of conversation chosen, and then how does it really work in terms of? So this is a bunch of things on cyber cafe. So there could be a bunch of things on.
Right.
How does this work?
Okay, so we have 9 or 10 themes. So it's education, corruption, gender, health, and
Yeah, but where do those themes come? Did you think about those themes yourself?
well, when we train them according to themes. So we spend 2 hours every morning going through the sub-themes of each theme. So if it's gender, then we talk about transgender, we talk about women participation in panchayats, and we spend, you know, a significant amount of our training time discussing sub-issues so that when they go back to their communities, they're not finding a lack of things to talk about. Even then there is. But for this was a very specific brief. So CIS and us discussed it, and then we communicated to the CCs. By CCs, I mean community correspondents, who we thought could get the best stories, or who are most reliable, and who are most rural, or who would get like a span of different issues. And then we communicate the brief to them, and they make the video and send it to us, and we edit it in-house. So this was a specific brief, but otherwise it's an issue that's close to their heart. So whatever they want to make stories on, they communicate it with us, and then we mentor them through the process of coming up with a video. So we basically get in touch with NGOs and grassroots organizations all over the country. So we have a significant network, and we ask for applications. So they have to fill out a form, and then we go through the form and we decide whether these people are, whether the applicants are eligible. So they have to be earning a certain amount, less than a certain amount. So we usually say less than 5,000 rupees household income per month. And or they have to belong to a minority, or they have to be transgender, etc., etc. I mean, this is kind of like, you know, whatever. Some people are just not allowed into the program based on what they fill into the form. And then we go through the form, and then we call them up. We have another half-an-hour long interview with them, and then we decide shortlist, and they come for a training.
Are there any other questions? So if you're exploring themes like corruption, like are the existing authorities like peeved by it, or do you face any problems with respect to that? Any of your volunteers?
So he asked whether when we cover issues on corruption, whether we face sort of a lashback or people get peeved. So the answer is yes, and we've had a lot of security issues in different parts. Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh especially are bad in this regard, but also in Maharashtra, you know, people have been, I mean, when they've been shooting, they've been caught by the cops and taken in for no particular reason, and then we've had to contact our lawyers' networks. But mostly the issues that they work on are rather small and rather local. So what they do is, for corruption, it's a bit sensitive, but you know, you don't mention the people who are directly being corrupt, and you talk about the issue rather than the people who are perpetuating it. And we sort of guide them through the way, like you have to get people to allow them to speak on camera, and you know, we do, I mean, it is a bit restrictive and limited, but I think at the end of the day, something is better than nothing, so.
Yes, can I have like a show of hands about everybody who wants to ask questions? It's like I'm opening up the call, saying how many people want to ask questions. I want a show of hands. Because I'm going to close the speakers list, and I'm not going to allow more questions. That's only one hand now. This is how I teach, sorry, when you put me in front of a lot of students, like a schoolmaster. That's anybody else who has more questions right now? No. Then Nipun, you have the last question, and then we end this session.
Okay, so I understand the process, and I think it's really good. What I want to understand more is how the impact is reached. Do you have a set of particular audience, like IAS officers or people who can actually go out and make the changes? Or how do you basically bring the impact? Make it realized?
So in the video that I show, the 2-minute one about impact, so the first one was about RCC in Orissa, who basically stopped illegal timber logging in her village. So in that case, what they did was she showed the video to the community on a television, and they then took action against the people who were doing this, and the police helped them. So in that case, it all went quite smoothly. Otherwise, community screenings are the first step, so that's why we send them back their videos on DVDs. And then in another case, one of our CCs in Jharkhand, he often uses his mobile phone, and he often does education stories, so he knows exactly who to go to. So he goes to the BDO or the BEO, whatever, block education officer, and he shows it to him on his mobile phone, and then the block education officer takes action, and then he makes a video documenting the impact. But we've done more than 1,000 videos, and we have only about 65 instances of solid impact. I mean, of course, they vary in number and scale, but that's sort of now is what we're pushing through petitions on change.org and fundraising. So now another case that we're following quite strongly is an incident of an acid attack, Chanchal, and we're raising funds, and we've gotten the legal system to help, and advocacy specialists and petitions. So if you go on our website, you can find out more about that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The speakers for today are all available for the rest of the evening, so feel free to interact with them. But thank you so much for these amazing videos.